What's up, everyone? I'm Joe Pompliano, and this is the Joe Pomp Show. Today, we're going to talk about the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup in North America, and more specifically, where the final match is going to be played. But let me set the scene a little bit for you guys before we dig into the details. Some of you might have seen last week that FIFA's president was traveling around the United States, and he ended up attending a home game at at&t Stadium in Dallas, Texas, for the Cowboys and the Jets. And the reason why this was so significant was because he was in the owner's box with Jerry Jones. He was rubbing elbows with Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and everyone knew why he was there, to scout the stadium as a potential host for the final match of the 2026 World Cup. Now, the World Cup is huge. I mean, this thing generates $8 billion in revenue every 4 years, and Dallas, Texas is certainly not the only major U.S. city that wants to host this event. So today I'm going to run you through what appears to be the three finalists for this game: New York City, Los Angeles, and Dallas. I'll give you the pros and cons of each, and we'll talk through why I think one city stands above the rest and is eventually going to win this bid. But let's start with New York City. Now, New York City has a lot of pros. Everyone knows New York City. It is the biggest metro area in the United States with more than 19 million people living there. It's an international city. There's 3 major airports with JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark right there. You can commute from New York City to MetLife Stadium via public transit, although it's not that great. The stadium has 82,500 seats, so it's plenty big enough to host the final. And you would make a lot of money if you're FIFA. I mean, anyone that has ever been to a Yankees game, a Knicks game, a Nets game, a Rangers game, whatever you want to go to in New York City, the corporate money in New York City rivals anywhere else in the world. You would sell out luxury suites and sponsorships in a minute. But there's a few cons for New York City. And I think first and foremost, the biggest one is that MetLife is an outdoor stadium. Not only is it outdoor, but during the summer, which is when the World Cup final would be, there would be a tremendous amount of heat and humidity, but also chances for a thunderstorm. And the reason why that is so important from a viewership perspective is that if you delay the start of this game, you're messing with viewership windows all over the world, right? So if the game is supposed to start at 6 or 8 p.m., which the last 4, 5, or 6 World Cups have started at local time, if you delay that game by 2-3 hours because of a thunderstorm, you can't go out there, then you mess up the viewing area for people in Europe and other countries throughout the world. So I think that ultimately is the main reason why they're not going to select MetLife to at least host the final. Next up, let's talk about Los Angeles. SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles is freaking tremendous. I went there for the Super Bowl a few years ago. It's by far the nicest stadium I've ever been to, bar none. Anyone that has ever been there usually will tell you the exact same thing. It's incredible. The stadium cost more than $5 billion to build, and I think it would instantly be the nicest stadium ever to host a World Cup final. Now, Los Angeles is the second biggest metro market in the United States. They have an international airport there. There's nearly 100,000 hotel rooms. Transportation's a little gimmicky, like the parking sucks, the traffic is terrible, the public transport isn't great to the stadium, but people figure it out. They held the Super Bowl there. You'll be able to figure it out for the World Cup. Now, the one big negative for the World Cup final, and again, why I ultimately don't think that Los Angeles is going to be hosting it, is for as nice as SoFi Stadium is, and for as much money as FIFA could potentially make from this game there, the stadium is not built for soccer, and I'll explain. So there's been some reports that have come out that say that the stadium is actually not wide enough. The playing area is not wide enough for a full soccer pitch. And the reason why that's important is because that means that they would have to widen and eliminate some of the stands or the luxury suites to build out the venue for the World Cup. And the reason why that is unfortunate is because there's only 70,000 seats in SoFi Stadium today, and FIFA has an 80,000 seat requirement to host the final match. So not only would they have to eliminate some seats, but that means that they would have to find an additional 10,000 seats or build an additional 10,000 seats to host the game anyways. So I think what's ultimately going to end up happening is that LA and New York are tremendous media markets. FIFA can make a lot of money there. They're obviously going to be hosting games there, maybe even opening matches. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to host the semifinals there and then have everyone meet in the middle in Dallas, Texas for the final. And the reason why I think Dallas is so great is because, number one, the venue is absolutely incredible. I mean, at&t Stadium was built I think it opened in 2009 or 2010. It's a little bit behind from a technology perspective with SoFi Stadium and US Bank and some of these other stadiums opening more recently. But this thing has an 11,500 square foot video board in the middle. When you watch a Cowboys game on television, it's tremendous. And that is ultimately more important than people attending the game. And the reason for that is that 1.5 billion people watched the final between Argentina and France on television in 2022. So FIFA cares more about how the game looks on television than it necessarily does about people attending the game. Dallas is also the biggest stadium of the three. They can seat 100,000 people in that stadium. And they've done this a bunch of times. They've hosted WrestleMania. They've hosted the Super Bowl. They've hosted the NCAA Men's Final Four. They've hosted the College Football National Championship game and a bunch of other big name events too. And then when you add in the fact that it's climate controlled, so you don't have to deal with any of the conditions, you can make it inside exactly the temperature and the humidity that you want to play this game in. I think that's another tremendous option. And ultimately, last but not least, like Jerry Jones doesn't like to lose this type of stuff. We all know that FIFA can be bribed in one regard or another. We don't know what other cities are offering FIFA from an economic standpoint, from an ownership standpoint, whatever it is. But Jerry Jones has built the Cowboys into a $9 billion franchise. He's built a bunch of other businesses too off of that. And he's made a tremendous amount of money through sports and entertainment. And my guess is that with 4,000 jobs up for grabs and hundreds of millions of dollars of economic impact, Jerry Jones is going to find a way to get his stadium to host this game. And I think it's a good option. I mean, there's an airport 15 minutes away from the stadium. There's plenty of hotel rooms. Transportation would be okay. And they've done all of this before. So my guess is, I'm writing it down, today is September 26, 2023. In the next 6 or 12 months, I think they're going to announce that Dallas, Texas has gotten the World Cup final. LA and New York are great options, but they'll probably host either the quarterfinals or the semifinals. And Jerry Jones will get his wish and host the 2026 Men's FIFA World Cup final in Jerry World. We'll see what happens. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify. I do this thing 3 times a week, breaking down the most interesting stories in sports business. I think you'll enjoy it. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk later this week.